we're sitting here with Dave Cousins, hoping to air, and I'll give you a pen, hoping to air the results on WGMU and probably throw something up on YouTube. And what we're going to discuss really, for the most part, is a new release on Witchwood Media called Strawbs of the Time. And then apparently Deadlines is coming out, so we'll talk a little bit about what has that coming out over maybe some other things from the back catalog. But a second ago, while I was getting set up, you made an interesting statement that it may be your only album. Was that your exact? Were those your words?
No, we always wanted to make just an album, and the fact that if we were allowed to make an album with as much money as we needed to make it was extraordinary at the time, and it was a huge amount of money that A&M sent us. Don't forget, we were the very first British band signed to A&M Records in Hollywood. They were just about to launch their British label, and they were looking for somebody a band to do it with, and so we found ourselves in that position. They sent it over, and we went through, we made all these songs, but each song was treated differently, so that's why the records sound perhaps disjointed at times. You've got sort of Jimi Hendrix guitar on the opening track, A Man Who Called Himself Jesus. You've got an Arab band on Tell Me What You See in Me. You've got a huge orchestra on loads of songs. You've got a French accordion player on one song. It's just, it went on and on. And when A&M heard it, they said, well, we heard your first two songs that you sent us and we loved them. We thought you were a sort of poetic rock group.
Which two?
That was Oh How She Changed and Or Am I Dreaming? And then they said, suddenly you've come up with this. What is it? And so they said, we don't like that, we don't like that, we don't like that, we don't like that. So most of the album was completely dumped and only 2 or 3 tracks survived. And the album has sort of stayed in the can for years and years and years. And I often thought, well, if I put that out, people are going to laugh because it sounds so peculiar, because it's all orchestral and and it didn't. Our voices weren't really strong enough to carry the songs against an orchestra.
So let me ask you this: Did they set you loose in the studio with Tony Visconti, and they really weren't paying attention to what the results were on an ongoing basis?
No, they came and listened at all. We just made the album.
So there was no. They weren't trying to give you any feedback during that initial process.
None whatsoever.
You were unleashed with a budget.
We were unleashed with a budget. They'd heard Sandy Denny and the Strawbs. They loved that. They wanted to sign us, and that's how we got signed. And so we re-recorded the songs that we recorded with Sandy Denny, and that's what we did. But there was no supervision from A&M whatsoever. They didn't even come to the studio for 1 second while we were recording the album. It was very strange.
Had she been poached away from you? Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, she left, went off to Fairport Convention.
Do you sort of feel like over the years that the Strawbs is this band where people keep poaching your players like Blue Weaver and Rick Wakeman, or is it just sort of they happen to leave and then get quick employment?
No, Sandy really felt that she wanted to sing more folky music, and she was having an affair with Joe Boyd at the time. And Joe said, you don't want to sing that pop stuff, you want to come and be with Fairports. And so she went and sang with them, liked it, phoned me up and said, I'm sorry Dave, but I'm going. I said, that's fair enough. If that's what you want to do, good luck. So I said, we'll carry on. We then recruited Sonia Christina of Curved Air for a couple of shows. That didn't work out. And so in the end we thought, right, we'll make the album ourselves. So A&M sent us all this money. Tony Hooper, who's on the front cover there, he was living upstairs from Gus Dudgeon in the same apartment block, and we were given. They said, "You better get yourselves a producer." They just left us totally open to get a producer. There was no supervision. They didn't say, you've got to have Gus Dudgeon. They let us find it.
So, did they have a studio somewhere in England that you went into, or you found the studio and then you began the process?
Yeah.
And they just figured, oh, this is all going to work out great. Let's let them make this thing.
Yeah.
Here's this bundle of cash.
Yeah.
Lads, we'll talk to you in 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was it like working with Ted Heath Orchestra?
Astonishing.
So how did that process work? Did you jam with them, or I mean, I guess they were on scale. I mean,
no.
They just came in and did overdubs, or
they were all they were on Musicians Union. They were on scale rates.
Was that a sheet music type thing? They show up in an overdub?
Tony Visconti wrote all those arrangements.
Okay.
And Gus brought in Tony Visconti. And it was extraordinary because Tony and I got on so well. And he wrote the score for Sweetling, and the guys played it, loved the score so much that in the middle where they're da 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 da, they all stood up and played it like a big band in the, and it was all hilariously funny.
Gotcha.
And everybody had a whale of a time. And then when we remade the tracks, or started again, the album that came out was totally different. I rather feel sometimes that had that album come out, it might have been the last album we ever made.
Just because the buying public wouldn't have known what to do with you guys?
No, they wouldn't have known whether we were a pop group, a rock band, a folk group, or what on earth we were.
It's certainly progressive because it's so all over the place. There are things on here that totally fit in with A&M. I'm surprised. Were you guys in touch with Herb Alpert at any point? Because
no.
Were you trying to appeal to him with some of the material?
No.
Okay, because I feel like some of the songs were like, hey, let's do this, and I bet Herb Alpert puts the record on and only listens to the first song because there was a band called The Tubes, if you're familiar with them, and they were on A&M, and they did a little trick on Herb Alpert where they did a song called Malagueña Sabrosa, I think it's called. It's a kind of a popular Mexican tune. So they open up this punk progressive album that they did with that song, and then they go into their, White Punks on Dope and Mondo Bondage and all these kinds of songs. But they figured, hey, let's record this song that Herb Alpert's going to think is a tribute to him, and then he won't listen to the rest of what we're doing. So, not to bore you with that, but it just made me think like, here's this warm trumpet, and it seemed to be the Herb Alpert sound that
was the way. It was a guy called Kenny Baker who played that, who was Britain's top trumpeter at the time.
Gotcha.
One of the top trumpeters in the world. The funny, curious thing was that we met Herb Alpert. First of all, when we first ever went to America, we played a week at the Whiskey A Go Go, which was astonishing.
Sure, yeah, the Doors, everybody's played there.
And we got invited to a party at Gil Frieson's house, and Herb Alpert was there. And we had the stupid idea of pushing Herb Alpert into the swimming pool. Now you can imagine that again would have been our last ever appearance on the label.
Did he take that okay?
No, we didn't do it.
Oh, okay.
It was an idea that we had.
Gotcha.
But thank God somebody talked us out of it.
Gotcha. Well, we
were mad.
People have cell phones now. You can't push them into pools.
Can't you?
How many? I got a question for you. How many times have you guys now toured around America? Are you keeping count?
No.
Okay.
I've not the faintest idea.
Gotcha.
All I know is that in the 70s we spent 2 years of the 1970s in North America.
I see.
If you work out all the tours that we did,
I see.
In terms of length of time that we spent here, it was 2 years.
And who were the best and the worst bands that you guys were playing with during that time? Did anyone stick out in your category?
On who was the worst band. Everybody was quite good. I didn't get on with RE or Speedway particularly.
That's funny. Did you do an extended amount of dates with them?
Yes, but we did also a trick. They played silly tricks with us. Like we headlined one night, they headlined the next. And if they were headlining, they pushed all their gear right to the front of the stage.
Gotcha.
So we had no room.
And you had a drummer?
Yeah, and so it was stupid. It was just juvenile. So they did it one night, and our tour manager said, look, they're being really stupid. I said, we'll get in the mood. They said, no, they won't move. So I said, right, we'll get them. So we did our show, and at the end of it, in the interval, it was in a gymnasium, and it was a typical school gymnasium, a high school gymnasium, and there was a staircase up, and the dressing rooms were on the first floor, and their dressing room was at the top of the stairs. So I said to one of our crew, get me a length of rope. He said, why? I said, don't ask, just get me a length of rope. So just before they were due to come on, I had got the length of rope, tied it around the handle of their dressing room door, tied it around the top of the stairs, and we walked down the stairs saying bye. And suddenly you heard, ladies and gentlemen, we present REO Speedwagon. And you saw their door rattling, and they were stuck in, and you saw a knife come out and try and saw through the rope, and they were furious.
Was that the last date of the tour or something like that?
Well, it was.
Or did it remedy the rockstar attitude?
It went on, but I can't remember what happened. But they were absolutely livid. But those are the sort of silly things that people do, and you can get your own back on them. It wasn't malicious or vindictive. It was just very funny.
Yeah, no, that is funny. And it's funny that it's REO Speedwagon.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I mean, it's people. either really like that band or really hate the fact that they were all over the radio back in the 80s. So
We didn't mind.
someone's going to get a laugh out of this somewhere.
We played with Frank Zappa, and he actually he would not have, he set up a separate mixing desk for the other bands he played with.
I see.
So he was very nice. We played with Joe Walsh a lot, we played with Santana. Carlos Santana used to stand on the side of the stage and watch us every night.
Gotcha.
He loved the noise we made. We played with the James Gang, we played with Blue Oyster Cult. King Crimson and ourselves did many a show together. It was very strange because around America they headlined the shows. When we went up to Canada, we headlined.
But sales were pretty good for you up there, I take it?
Oh yeah, I think pro rata per head of population, we probably sold more records in Canada than anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, Canada's kind of weird. Their top 40 is not our top 40.
No, it is totally different.
Yeah.
And we still get airplay out there. In fact, I put a solo album out about 3 or 4 years ago, and they got a nationwide channel like Sirius, and the album went up to #2 in their charts. They mainly because I wrote a song called Canada, which was written both in French and English, and the French guy over there adored the fact that I'd taken the trouble to do it.
Yeah, no, that's nice. The acoustic Strawbs, I mean, obviously it's nice to not have to carry around tons of guitars that are you know, solid, but I guess the question is, there's still a lot to lug around. There's all the accommodations. So, what sort of launched the acoustic Strawbs, which you're playing with tonight?
Well, we're not a quite acoustic trio. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
It's much louder than you ever imagined.
I see. So louder than the State Theater show a couple of years ago.
Yes. It's a lot heavier. Except it might be a bit gentler today because we're doing a sort of history of the band.
Nice.
From beginning to end.
Nice.
So there'll be some very gentle songs at the beginning, and it gets louder towards the end. But Chaz makes a heck of a racket with his foot pedals.
I see.
And we're always playing different inversions on the guitar. I'm usually playing in a different tuning. Dave's playing in a different position, and Chaz has got his 12 string. And when we rehearse or work up a new song, we work out different positions to play. And so the guitars don't sound like 3 guitars, they sound more like 12.
I see.
And it makes a big noise. And then you've got Chaz's foot pedals added to the mix of it, and it's enormous.
I like that the band really has different facets, and the Baroque CD really brings out, you know, without this, barrage of noise, there's a lot of, the clarity going on with that. Are you guys going to do more studio stuff? Because I noticed, I guess the other 2 CDs were live performances.
Yeah, but we are, next year, because I've been so busy, I've just started a new record label.
And is that the Witchwood?
No.
Okay.
Witchwood has been going for about 10 years.
Okay.
And we've sold
I've seen the name.
We've sold 100,000 records in that time, which is
for independent.
Yeah, that people are astonished when I tell them.
Well, that is. And how many releases do you have out?
About 30, I think.
I see.
They sell, the best one has sold about 8,500, 9,000.
No, that's great in this day and age.
Yeah.
With everybody stealing music, with the the Napsters and third generation and. Yeah, no, those are good numbers.
We're doing downloads as well. That's all happening. But I've got a new rock.
Do you sell much with the MP3s?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, cool. Some artists can put out MP3s and nobody's going to ever buy them.
No, it's a steady stream every month. Virtually the same amount of money comes in.
I see.
When you put a new release like that out, it'll kick it.
So tell me about the rock label, and then we'll talk about
Deadlines. It's called Dark Lord Records. I'm working with a record producer. My partner is a guy called Chris Tangaridis.
Yeah, I know the name. He's been in music forever, right?
Yeah, he
producer, right?
Yeah, he's produced Black Sabbath.
Yeah, sure.
Judas Priest, Yngwie Malmsteen, Concrete Blonde, and he's sold millions and millions of records. We live very near to one another. We formed this label. We've signed 6 bands so far. 4 are released. 2 are American bands. One's called Chemicals of Democracy. They're from Phoenix. Another band from the Carolinas called Blanco Diablo. And then we've got 2 English bands out at the moment. One called Snakewater, a brand new blues band. And we've got a punk gothic band called Spit Like This. We've just signed a Trinidadian band called Orange Sky, wonderful band. And we've got another gothic metal band from England called Wretched Soul, but they won't be coming out till next year.
So you're really keeping tabs on what's going on with different kinds of styles that have come along since the Strawbs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that influences what I do. And you said, are we going to record? We'll be recording later next year. But because I've been so busy, writing songs has gone on the back burner. I went on holiday to Portugal recently and wrote 2 new ones in a week, and it was just because I was away from not sitting on a computer all day long doing digital royalty statements or doing royalty statements for the band.
Gotcha.
So
you are the accountant?
Yeah.
That sounds pretty tedious, actually. I guess there's got to be a lot of different titles, and you have to account for each title. And
exactly.
I won't bore you with having to restate the accounting process.
People don't know, but I've got a university degree in mathematics and statistics.
Gotcha. So if I throw out FIFO and LIFO,
doing spreadsheets is I can do it in my sleep.
Gotcha. Well, don't let me be your accountant. I failed accounting 101 and 201, I think, and that drove me right out of the school of business. And like you, I have my own little label, and I gave Dave one of my releases, so maybe you guys will listen to it on the ride. So Deadlines, this is coming out apparently, and how do you select something like this? I mean, when and how do you decide to go to another piece of the catalog?
We had the rights back, and it was only ever released on CD here in America, in the United States, on East West, and that was under license. Hasn't been available for several years. If you want to buy one on Amazon, you had to pay about $45–50
for the CD.
So we're putting it out on CD. We've rejigged the artwork a bit, just taking it apart and put it together again. We found lots of bonus tracks. I found loads of home demos, not loads, about 8 home demos that I've done of the songs.
Gotcha.
So, and there's also band rehearsals, and there are also mixes that were done and abandoned. So there's 2 or 3 songs. You can actually trace the song. You can listen to it if you want to sequence it from the acoustic demo to the band rehearsing it to the finished product.
Nice.
And the lyrics change all the way through. You go, well, that wasn't a finished lyric, and then you realise that it was a work in progress as we were going along. Right. And I think people will be fascinated.
No, that's always nice to see that songwriting process and hear little differences.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're crazy about a band, you want to hear all those different things. And I want to get back to the current CD that's just come out the other time. I noticed that it looked like you kept sort of touching these things and doing alternate mixes and throwing vocals on top. So
once you see, in the mid-70s, the band wasn't getting on particularly well. After part of the Union, which killed us stone dead in England. And I decided, and people would laugh, I thought, right, that's it. And at the time we had what we call the chicken in a basket cabaret scene.
Yeah, I've heard that term, chicken in a basket.
Yeah, chicken and chips literally in a basket. But it was a cabaret circuit, and I thought, right, to hell with the band, I'm going to go on the cabaret circuit. So I took those old tapes and I re-recorded the vocals on them. After I'd done it, I thought that wasn't quite such a good idea after all. But when you listen to it, the vocals, it shows you how quickly we changed in 5 years. My vocals were very nasally and a touch folky on that album. But by the time I got to 1972 and I'd had more experience in the studio, my vocals became really quite smooth.
One thing I noticed is, I mean,
if I say so,
no, I mean, I wanted to, that was kind of like how I was going to close out, was with the vocals. Kind of a two-pronged question. When you started the Strawbs, and I guess Sandy Denny was singing, you were looking for a singer for the most part. Were you looking to sort of have sort of a backing role?
No,
and then got pushed into.
We all sung. The harmonies were the most important thing with that.
Okay.
And so I took a back role, but I was playing much more leadish guitar at the time.
But ultimately, you did end up in the driver's seat.
Yeah. Well, Tony Hooper was the singer, and I was the
on how much does he sing leads? I mean, I do definitely notice there are 2 different singers on here.
He's about 40% of it, I suppose.
But definitely on these first 12 tracks, you've got lead on more than a few of those songs. Yeah. And what I've noticed, the other thing I wanted to state was, and let you comment, although it's just kind of a statement on my part, is just it seems like your voice is really held up, and you sound very similar to where you've been at this time although you just commented that things have sort of changed, but Dave Cousins seems to be very consistent with what you do vocally, and you deliver, and it seems to, it hasn't diminished. When I saw you guys at the State Theater.
Well, I thought I got better.
Yeah? Okay, good. I mean...
no, when I first started,
yeah.
I didn't phrase particularly well. Then I got to a phase where I was trying to sing properly, and to hell with it. Now I just sing how I feel, and the songs have got more atmosphere because of it.
Good.
And in that way you can interpret the songs differently every night. Sometimes the songs are slower, sometimes they're more drawn out, sometimes they're a bit faster and there's more attack in them, and it just depends how I feel at the time. And so that also gives the music a certain freshness.
Good. You kind of answered my question that I didn't ask very well, but I didn't really want to write anything down. I just had a couple of ideas of things that I wanted to ask you. But, you know, I listened to this other time, you know, more than a few times, and particularly focusing on the original 12 tracks. And it's fantastic that this thing has come out, and, you know, based on other things you've done, I think people will see the band in you know, a different light in terms of, you know.
Well, you see what we were trying to do. We had dressing like that was.
Well, what is this building here?
That's a building in West London called Osterley House. It's a beautiful, beautiful old stately home.
So you must have some pretty incredible archives.
Yeah, and we're still finding stuff. I've just found a recording of a tour that I did, the only solo tour I ever did over here in the United States. And I've got that, and I might put that out in February next year. But it's me talking a lot more than normal.
Is it sort of like a singer storyteller type thing?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And what year was that?
About 5 years ago.
I see. I'm sorry I missed that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I want to thank you for your time. I think we've kind of...
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.